Hi, Candy Guest. My name is Lakhnoor and welcome to my podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So, today I'll be talking about one of the most important and challenging issues in Australia. So, the truth telling between First Nation people and the non Indigenous Australians. So, Candy, do you agree with the commissioners that their history of colonization in Victoria is a genocide?
Look, it's not my responsibility or positioning to make that determination. I think the Commission has done an amazing job in pulling together the evidence of the experience of First Peoples in Victoria around their exposure to treatments that were consistent with what the definition of genocide is, and they've demonstrated that through the report. So while, it's not up to me to make a determination as to whether it was a genocide or not, the report has said that it is. We know that there have been genocidal acts in Australia that are consistent with the definition of genocide in modern terms. I think that's been demonstrated through the report, as well as being supported by those previous reports of the Royal Commission into Deaths in Custody, and also the Bringing Them Home report, which also identified that the removal of children was in fact a genocidal act.
But I want to stay with that issue of financial redress. How do you go about working out that? How much that should be? What the quantum is?
I think there are a couple of elements to the call to action. So they do call for redress and reparations. Now, while there potentially should be some financial compensation for the loss of both culture, wealth, country, connection, all of the trauma and intergenerational trauma that people have been exposed to. And, when we do the wrong thing, it's part of the Australian character to make it right. And so part of that reparations and redress will need to be a compensation from a financial perspective. However, for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, redress and reparations isn't just about money. It's also about healing the wounds that have put us in the circumstances that we're in. And so I do support the call to action, but I do want to stress that for our people, it's not just about the money, it's about making things right. A lot of discussions that need to be had with Victorian Aboriginal people around what that might look like. Again, it's not for me to determine what people should be entitled to in terms of the loss that they've experienced. That's a conversation for the Assembly now, the First Nations Assembly in Victoria, and the Victorian Government about what does redress, reparations, financial compensation look like. There will be elements to that need to be repaired. So things like the cultural loss, what's the economic loss to First Peoples in Victoria? The evidence presented to the Commission, for example, showed that there was $80 billion in revenue alone from water income. Victoria, we do have the treaty process underway as well. And so when we talk about the Assembly taking this forward now, the traditional owners and the work that's happening in that treaty context will also be considering these matters. So there's a bit of work to do yet to get to that point.
Are you having conversations about economic redressing of the parts of the country?
No, my mum was born on Palm Island here in Queensland, and so my grandparents were moved there from their traditional country. So I connect with the experiences and the conversations that senior people in Victoria, that people who live through those policies and practices have bared witness to in these reports. I think it's a very powerful report that obviously goes to not just Aboriginal people's testimony here, but it also brings to the table non-Indigenous people who wanted to participate in this and share their stories and their engagement in the colonial process and how that they've seen that impact the relationship between Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people. In terms of how I feel when I read that, obviously it's really traumatising, but it's also very healing at the same time to know that our people are still at the table. They continue to come forward, they continue to share, they continue to be invested in this relationship, they continue to search for a better Australia. And, that gives me such hope and such a feeling of pride that our people are leading those conversations, and whether we've got government support or not, those conversations continue, and we continue to reach out.
Thank you so much, Candy.